you're in the right place.
Do we want to do a little icebreaker while we wait and folks in the chat can let us know where they're joining us from?
Absolutely, that's a great idea. If you would go ahead and just put where you're joining us from in the chat, that would be great.
You know, one of my favorite icebreakery questions is, what was your first job, like your first tax-paying job? Because it humbles us, but it also helps us think about like, what are the things that we do, especially as we're thinking about like, you know, using AI in our roles and how it might impact our roles. So maybe if folks are brave, if they want to put in the chat or just come off mute, tell us what your first job ever was, and I'll lead by example. I worked at Hollywood Video. So Supercuts, I love that. Wetzel's Pretzels. Sam, what was yours?
Other than that, if at 13 we picked fruit, we got 50 cents a wooden crate
50 cents per crate?
per crate. But that was like 1967, 68. I mean, you know, 50 cents went a long way.
I guess so. All right. Well, it's 11:02. I'd like to get started for everybody who's here on time, and I'm still admitting people. So good morning and welcome to CSU+UC Event Professionals Network Hot Topic for March 2025. My name is Phyllis Grillo. I am the chair of the CSU-UC Our topic this month is ChatGPT, creating a prompt that gets results. We have experts with us today who will walk you through the good, the great, and the fabulous of ChatGPT and provide you with an opportunity to put what you learned today into practice immediately with hands-on exercise. Of course, we will have a Q&A session, so please feel free to add your questions to the chat as they come to you. We will do our best to get through them all. Before we get started with our introductions, if you haven't already, please mark your calendar now for the CSU-UC Annual Conference. It is scheduled to be held on July 9th through the 11th at UC Berkeley. Early bird registration ends on Monday, March 31st, so if you want to save some cash, get on over there. Otherwise, we hope you'll plan on joining us. And without further ado, let's meet our presenters. First off is Antonio Tony Nava. He serves as the Program Director of Operational Strategic Initiatives. He has trained over 2,000 staff as a lead instructor for the Lean Six Sigma Yellow Belt certification at UC San Diego. Additionally, he has trained 600 staffs in process mapping as the administrator for ProMap. He was awarded the 2021 UC San Diego Exemplary Staff Employee of the Year Award. And Tony regularly facilitates cross-departmental and cross-institutional projects, leverages PROCE, change management, and applies LSS methodologies to support change initiatives campus-wide. After developing an introductory AI module, which is now available to all UC San Diego staff, his current focus is on blending LSS and AI to ensure teams reach optimal benefits from each tool set. He spends his time outside of work volunteering with youth organizations and cycling, and when possible, he donates his ponytail to Locks of Love, a 501c3 that supports a sense of self and normalcy in children suffering from hair loss. So welcome, Tony. We also have someone who's known and loved very deeply by the CSU-UC-EPN, and that is Sam Camarena. As the convener of the CSU and UC Event Professionals Network, Sam organizes professional development initiatives and leads the CSU AI in Advancement Work Group to explore AI's potential in transforming the advancement sector. As a manager in the Advancement Academy, Sam manages the CSU Advancement Academy Professional Development Program, organizing workshops and convening communities of practice, coordinates system-wide reporting of advancement data, and maintains archives of the CSU advancement gains, metrics, policies, and tools. And he is a fabulous all-around human being, and we adore him. Last but not least, we have Sean Monroe with UC San Diego. Sean is the service offering manager for TritonGPT at UC San Diego, a pioneering generative AI platform leveraging vertical AI-focused domain-specific solutions to directly address UC San Diego's unique operational needs. Sean leads initiatives aimed at enhancing campus operations through secure, scalable, and inclusive AI technology solutions. His background in process improvement as a certified Lean Six Sigma Black Belt informs his approach, enabling the optimization of workflows and operational efficiencies. Sean's work has successfully democratized access to advanced AI tools, fostering collaborations across campus, departments, and significantly enhancing institutional productivity. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Sam to make the first part of our presentation. Take it away, Sam.
Awesome. Thank you, Phyllis, for that introduction. And it's so nice to be here with everybody talking about one of the newest innovations that's coming to the CSU. For my portion here, before we get to the good stuff with Antonio, I'm just going to give you guys a bit of an overview as to the new tool that we're going to have access to. Some of us already have access to it, and that is ChatGPT as part of a system-wide contract and larger initiative through the CSU. So I'll just give you guys the quick scoop in terms of what that exactly means, some tips on how to use the tool, and then we're going to dive into some fun practice in just a moment. So a couple weeks ago, the CSU entered into a big purchasing contract with OpenAI, who owns and created ChatGPT, to get everybody in the system, and that's students, faculty, and staff, access to ChatGPT as part of the enterprise license for the university. What that means is that over the next couple of weeks, some of us already, Phyllis shared that today is when they announce at Monterey Bay that they have access to GPT. Every student, faculty, and staff will be able to have access to this tool, much the same way that they have access to other enterprise solutions. So in the short, you'll be able to single sign on into it with your university email address, and then you'll have access to use ChatGPT both on the web, on the browser, and as well as some of us will have access to the desktop app. So there'll be a new application on your machine that you'll be able to use it, and both function essentially the same way too. What comes with this system-wide agreement is we get kind of the plus level subscription access to it. So what normally would cost you $20 a month to get access is free through this enterprise license. And it's also locked down in terms of the way that the data is leveraged out of any inputs you put into it to feed into the model. It's not allowed to do that. So we're able to use it for student donor information as well. Although our IT colleagues do ask us to avoid using level 1 data as much as possible. And as we can see through some of the practice that we'll do today, there'll be some pretty rare instances where you're able to really need to put that in there to get the output that you need. And of course, our IT departments remain the #1 place to go to if you have questions in terms of the privacy of using the tool, and probably some helpful links and tips in terms of training and other resources for it. Diving into it, you'll see once you have access, and I'll share my screen momentarily to show you what that might look like. But in the tool, there's different models that it uses to generate content for you. And what I'm looking to provide here is kind of a cheat sheet in terms of what that looks like. So at the top of the list, we have a 4.0 model that's ideal for automating routine activities such as managing to-do lists, setting reminders. It can also assist in generating things like shopping lists and providing quick answers for kind of general knowledge questions. The 4.0 Mini is essentially the same thing. It's just a little faster and it's not as complex. You'll see the minis next to a lot of these models. And really what it is the same model that's not able to kind of run as robustly or as fast. So it's often a good idea to kind of start with the smaller prompts there and then maybe work your way up to the bigger model if you have a lot of files that you want to share with it to work on a project or a lot of context. But oftentimes for a lot of the everyday things, the mini version is going to work out fine for you. And also for those of us that are looking to reduce our kind of carbon footprint and be more ecologically savvy, the minis use up less power, less computing, so that they do have a smaller footprint for the environment. So moving on, just like I said, the mini does some of the same things that the 4.0 does, but it's just a little quicker and it's better suited for some of the simpler tasks such as setting timers, providing weather updates, or offering brief summaries of news articles. Its speed and efficiency make it really effective for real-time information. You'll notice that too between the different models. The minis are going to be really fast. They're going to start generating a response almost instantaneously, while the full models kind of take a couple of seconds to think and then generate the output. When it comes to writing and exploring ideas, the latest model that they have from OpenAI, GPT 4.5, really excels in creating this. So it's really good at drafting, full articles, composing essays, generating content ideas, and its enhanced language capabilities make it valuable for brainstorming sessions and refining written material. There's also a couple of models that really excel at reasoning, strategizing, and at coding. So the O1 model uses some of the most advanced reasoning, and it's designed for complex problem solving and strategic planning. It can analyze intricate scenarios, develop strategic frameworks, and assist in decision-making processes. The Mini, same thing, but this is again more for quick yet sophisticated reasoning, such as debugging code, solving mathematical problems, and providing rapid solutions to logic problems. The Mini High is kind of like the in-between from the full to the mini. So much the same way too. This is going to be really helpful in writing complex algorithms, optimizing code performance, tackling challenges and logic-based problems. And this is probably one of the favorite tools of software development professionals and technical researchers. And then the O1 Pro model, which is the very best at reasoning, offers superior reasoning abilities, making it really suitable for high-stake decision-making, comprehensive data analysis, and formulating complex strategies. Its advanced processing power is really ideal for scenarios where accuracy and depth of analysis are critical. So in addition to the different models, there's a few functions that you can kind of turn on and off as you work through different chats in GPT. One of them is the ability to search the web. So if you're looking for the output to give you something, resources, citations for things on the web, you would turn that on and ask the question of it. Kind of the same thing for deep research. It's the web search kind of on steroids. If you're looking for vast research on the web, that's what you're going to turn on. One example of how I use this, I was researching trends in unrestricted giving to higher ed philanthropy over the last 20 years, and it put together like a really robust research paper for me. I mean, it took 15 minutes. You can see it working as it's looking through scores and scores of websites and different sources and putting things together. And at the end of the day, it put together maybe like a 2,000-word essay on the topic that I gave it. And again, that's one you just turn on as you make the prompt to it. Also, you're able to generate images, so you turn on that function as well, and it uses the OpenAI's DALL-E model to just create what amazing, imaginative, fictional image you need to create. And then there's also a canvas feature where if you turn that on, you're able to then edit the output that it gives you in the GPT kind of chat thread. So you're able to kind of work on top of each other and collaborate on things such as a complex writing thing or some coding. And at this point, I'm just gonna flash my GPT here to show you where all this stuff lives. So up here on the top left, you'll see that's where you can switch between the different models. And in the main kind of chatbot is where you could choose to add in additional media from your computer or taking a photo, and you can turn on the web search, the deep search, the image, and the canvas modules as well. And then off to your left, you can see all of my chats that I have with it from throughout the time that I work with it. One kind of pro tip that I'll offer is you can organize some of the chats under projects. So if you look here, you can it's a way to kind of keeping things organized, and the model seems to understand that the different chats are related, so you can ask it for something similar later on. And then you also have the option to temporarily create a temporary chat. So you turn that on, you can ask it a question, and then it won't save it in the chat. I find it really helpful for like really quick answers that I don't want to kind of clog up the things that I'm working on over here on the left, or just things that I just don't feel like sharing. With that, I'll go ahead and turn the focus over to Antonio to walk us through some activities and some demonstrations for really good prompting.
Awesome, thank you for that. And I will take over share if you can stop, please, and I'll throw mine up. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for that introduction and for getting us warmed up in terms of all the possible features. Earlier, something struck me. They said, we've got these experts. One thing I really want to let everyone know there's not really many people who are experts in this space right now. You know, I maybe have played around in this space a fair amount and I'm doing presentations or whatnot, but I'm still also learning. So, you know, I don't want anyone to think that the things that I'm about to do are magic. And where possible, I also want you to try these as I'm going through them. So I would encourage you to have a ChatGPT window open and you know, try to follow along or mess around a bit. So I'm going to go through prompting practice. My goals for you all today are, you know, I'm going to talk a little bit about prompting. I'm going to give you a couple of challenges that maybe you can try real time. And I'm going to share sort of some of the tips and frameworks that we've been sharing at UC San Diego with folks. A couple things for this interaction today. If you could have cameras on, that makes my heart happy. It helps me know that I'm not just sort of speaking out into the space. There will also be interactive moments, so I'm going to need some feedback from y'all. I'm going to need that energy thrown back at me. I heard you all are event professionals, so hopefully you know how much energy it takes for someone like myself with a theater background. I feed off the energy that you give, and I will be a better presenter for you all if you can give me that little bit of like nods or shakes of the heads or whatever. It lets me know if I need to speed things up or slow things down. Also, if I ask for, hey, give me an example when, you can use the raise hand function and I'll ask you to come off mute for a moment, or you can put things into the chat. But if you don't do either, if I get an awkward, weird silence, what's going to happen is I'm going to fill the time with dad jokes. We're recording this session and I don't want people to have to fidget through the recording. So I'm going to punish everyone by doing that. So everyone needs to be interactive in this space as much as possible. Okay, so now we have the table set. We're ready to go. A little bit about OSI and some of the work that we're doing, just so that you know sort of a little bit more about why I'm here, why I'm the one sort of sharing this. I've been supporting Sean's team. Sean's at ITS. They've been developing this tool, TritonGPT, for our campus, similar to what you're going to get at ChatGPT for your locations. And what OSI does is we help with process improvement, process mapping, strategic planning, that sort of thing. So we're kind of taking the product, if you will, of TritonGPT and other AI resources, and we're trying to get it out in front of folks and helping them understand where it's going to connect into their processes and that sort of thing. And hopefully you'll see some of that here today as well. Thank you for the introduction to ChatGPT, at least in terms of the layout. Maybe for some of you, you've never seen the interface before. Maybe you've gone in here and used it a little bit. Maybe you've used it a lot. I'm going to assume that everyone here, or at least one person in this space, has never seen the interface at all whatsoever. So what I'm going to do is I have my ChatGPT up here, and you're always going to start in this little space, and it says ask anything. And I was talking to my dad the other day, and he's like, ask anything. Like, what do you ask it? Like, it's such an infinite sort of void of, well, what do you mean ask anything, right? Think of it in this way. If you needed support with something, you need a list, a timeline of potential activities that you're going to go through. I need help wordsmithing an email that I wrote. I need help translating this document so that it resonates better with a different audience, because we built out this announcement for faculty, and I also want students to attend because we want to build those relationships. But the way that we wrote it doesn't really resonate with the student audience because we meant it to resonate with a faculty audience. You can use it to do those kinds of things. So when it says ask anything, you can literally say, tell me about what it takes to plan an event at a university, right? You could start from scratch, right? If you notice, I didn't just put events university, right? If I went to an internet search window, Google or whatnot, I might have just said events, event planning. I might have just put keywords. These AI tools are not keyword search tools, right? They're looking for relationships between what you're putting in here. So if I would give it a better sentence, like, tell me about events at a university, how do I plan those? It's going to give me a better set of outcomes. So that's your first tip, is give it a little bit of context, give it a little bit of information, and we're going to give you more to add layers on top of that. So some things that you can do is you can say, I am this staff member, I've got this kind of challenge, and I'm looking for help in this or that area, right? So just wanted to put that out there. Maybe that was the first time you've seen how quickly you can give a response and that sort of thing, and that can be really useful for folks. At least this is a starting point. You got to crawl before you can walk. Okay, so what you're really learning today, and what I just did in the tool with the Ask Me Anything, is prompt engineering. So maybe you've been hearing that term, prompt engineering. Sounds kind of scary, like, do I need to know engineering concepts? Do I need to have an advanced degree or whatever? You don't. So prompt engineering is really just communicating with the tool. How do you ask it to do what what it needs to do in order for you to get the response, right? So prompt engineering, I kind of want to stop having people use that. Honestly, I wish people wouldn't call it prompt engineering, right? Maybe something better would be to think of it as like prompting, like you're nudging the tool to do a thing. Maybe that's a little bit better. But even that kind of falls short of what you're really doing in your interaction. One thing that I really want to present to you is this idea that it's communicating. It's a communication strategy. It's a soft skill that we all already possess, right? Especially folks in the events, industry, right? You need to think about how do you communicate with different audiences? How do you translate this message? How do you massage it? How do you transform it, expand it, compress it to have the most impact, right? And that's some of what these tools are going to help us do. I have a message sent to me directly in the chat right now. I want to ask if you can either put those in the overall so that Sean and Sam and others can help me field those, because I can't juggle and walk and chew gum, but I can try. So folks can help me with the things in the chat, but don't send them directly at me, at least for the moment. There will be a QA time at the end. But it's communication. So prompt engineering, just think of it as communication. Think of it as you're interacting with a student, staff member, or a coworker in another area, somebody who has expertise or knowledge maybe in a certain area that you're going to sort of pick at some ideas from them, right? Your prompting journey, right? What you're going to kind of experience is you start off by thinking of whatever ChatGPT has as a lump of clay, or really any AI tool. It's just a whole bunch of data smooshed together, right? And there's relationships in there that maybe you don't quite understand, but the data is just a lump of clay. When you put your first prompt in, when you tell it, can you please help me learn more about marketing or whatever the case is, it's going to give you something. It's going to generate, it's doing generative AI. It's going to give you a response, right? But it's going to be sort of half formed. If I asked for a statue and I got this, I would be pleased that it got me most of the way, but I would acknowledge and realize that there's a lot more work that needs to be done before this looks like a really solid statue, right? We as humans right now, as the operators, need to understand that we still need to be responsible to go in with the chisel and give it the finer details, the things that really make it come to life, so to speak. It's going to be the same when you're using these tools, right? You can continue the prompt and in the space give it that refinement, or you can export it out into a Word document or whatever it is you're working on and give it the user refinement after the fact. So it's a work in progress, right? Fun fact, each of these three images are in fact AI generated. So kind of a fun little tidbit there. Also these two. So entry points for AI. The behaviors that we see most people engaging in AI tools with, is that right? Sentence structure is poor, my apologies. Information seeking and content gathering. So the kinds of needs that people think of first is I either need to find an answer to a thing, like what's the policy around this, or what's the date this thing is happening. I need to find a fact. I need to find information that is factual. Or I'm generating something that is relatively new. This is where it's like, I have this document and I want to generate it for a different audience, or I want to turn it into a different language, or I need new ideas that I can do with the student, a student group that have to do with fundraising or something, right? You're generating new sort of ideas, or you're bouncing ideas off of this AI tool. So think of information seeking as one need and content generation as another need. But know that these tools are doing content generation in both instances. It is generative AI, right? So if you have an information seeking need, like I need to know when the date is for this or for that, make sure that you're following up on the facts that the tool is providing you. A lot of times it'll give you like links or references to where it pulled the data from. Go to those links and references and make sure that the source of truth document says what you believe it should say, or what the AI tool provided. Because these tools, we may have heard of hallucinations and other things like that. That's kind of what's happening there, is it's pulling things out and then it's trying to either expand them or contract them to fit the prompt that you put in there. So I said a whole lot, but boil it down to just know that you are still, again, responsible for the ultimate output. So if you see references, links, numbers, check on those before you go send that out to 800 people. Okay, so a couple of quick tips, quick ideas on what makes a good prompt versus maybe not so good prompt. Being clear and specific. So summarize this article into 3 points. Being clear, concise where possible is really important. If you say please or thank you or whatever, it's going to try to incorporate that into your response. It's not going to make a huge difference, but you can just say summarize this article. You don't have to say, good morning, AI. Can you please help me summarize? You can keep it as summarize this article. Contextual. So if you can give it a little bit of context around maybe why you need it, what the tone might be, what the goal of this ultimately might be used for, those are going to help in terms of how you build out your prompt. Things that are maybe not so good are sort of the opposite of those, right? If you're really, really vague, again, one of the behaviors we see for early users in AI is they'll just put keywords, biological sciences, right? It's not going to give you a whole lot of really useful information because it's not, in essence, at least not right now, a search engine. You're seeing some kind of hybrid things in that in like Google searches and things, but think of it as you need to give it context. You need to give it sentences because that's how a lot of these things were built. Like it's anticipating and it's ready for sentences and maybe even paragraphs, if you will, of what is it that you're trying to accomplish. If you can give it context, if you say, improve this sentence, it's like, well, what sentence are you talking about? That's a shortfall as well. If you say, please help me rewrite this email, great. Give it the context of, well, what email are you talking about? What file? You can upload files and give it reference points. Also, don't, at least right now, be careful about being overly complex. If you give it 15 tasks, like I need to create a report and a summary and a chart and an image. Yes, the tool can do all of those things, but a better way to do this would be to say, here's the context of my situation. Please help me create a report. Awesome, thank you. Can you now turn this into a summary? Awesome, thank you. Can you now provide just this information in the form of a chart? You can continue on that same thread so that it remembers the context before, but you're not trying to say, I need all of these things at once, because it's going to potentially give you an output that tries to blend all of those requests at once, or a few of them. For those of you who need or who prefer a framework, this is one that we've found some good luck with at UC San Diego. So it's the START. So situation, task, action, references, and tone. I want you to think of each of these as building blocks, not necessarily you need to have these in every single prompt that you build out. But you can check your prompt as you're typing it out. You can say, did I give it a situation? Did I give it a task? Are there references that maybe are necessary? So situation is, what's the context? So you could say, I'm a staff member who's preparing to lead a team building event. That's my situation. That's where I find myself at the current moment, right? The task, well, what do I need? Well, I need an invitation to that event asking staff if they have any dietary restrictions, right? Great, awesome. What's the action? What do you want me to do with this thing? I need it in an email. Oh, and by the way, no more than 2 paragraphs because we know that people tune out if it's longer than that. Awesome. You can give it references. You can say, hey, these 3 attachments that I'm about to include are the format and they include the branding of what's appropriate for this announcement. So we want to make sure that it has the same tone, for example. Awesome. You can include that as a reference document for the AI tool. And then in the end, you can add maybe a tone. You can say, I want this to be exciting. I want it to be engaging. I want it to be super professional. I want it to incorporate themes from Minecraft or something. Right? So you can give it the kinds of tones that are going to resonate with your audience, right? The kinds of the flavor text that's going to give it the zhuzh. So again, these are things that you can include in each of your prompts. They're not things that you absolutely have to have every single time you prompt something. So let's try this out real quick. So tell me what it takes. Tell me about what it takes to plan a thing at a university. Anytime you want to start a new chat, like a new conversation, make sure you come up here to the little new chat icon because it's going to sort of set aside what you were asking about before. So if I ask about ancient Rome and we have this big conversation about ancient Rome, and then I want to talk about student enrollment or something, I want to start a new chat because I don't want it to be still thinking about ancient Rome as I start talking about student enrollment. Okay, so I might say something like, tell me about what it takes to plan at a university. I am a new staff member at CSU, right? And I want to impress the leadership, right? I don't know. I gave it a little bit of context about me. I want it to sound impressive perhaps. So you can see how it gives me a little bit more context in some of these. Well, what's the purpose? And you need to make sure you define the goals. So I gave it a little bit of context. I didn't give any references. I might have gone over here to like, let's say, CSU-SB, bing. And maybe I'll say like mission statement. Mission statement, my bad. Okay. All right, so here's the core mission for CSU-SB at CSU right here. I'm going to copy this. This is where I can include a reference. So write business plan and incorporate themes from the mission. Here we go. So designed to foster collaboration, mentorship, that sort of thing. And I can change this to say, great, now the theme that we've decided on is going to be new student enrollment, and it's going to, target, first-time attendees or something like that. So you can start to massage these. You can say it has a budget plan and whatnot. Again, this is the point at which I must call out anytime you see numbers like 5,000, 7,000, 3, 5. I don't know if that adds up to 22. My public math is not great. But you should also know that these tools are also not good at math, generally speaking, because they're language model tools. They're not necessarily great. So you want to make sure that when you see things like this, that you're still the human behind it doing the mathematics and some of the other bits. Here we go. So hopefully you can see how we've gone from a simple sort of like initial prompt down to making an actual plan. I might turn this into, after this, I might say, great, this is awesome. Can you help me now write an email to people who might attend this event? And then we can continue this conversation forward. So situation, task, action, references, and tone. These are the building blocks. Now, what I want you to do, this is the part where you get some hands-on practice, as I promised. So I want you to pick one of these from each column or each set of notes here. So go into your GPT and pick a set. So you might say, I'm an event specialist. I need to make tiramisu. I want a bullet pointed list that is professional, right? And try that out and see what it gives you. If none of these necessarily speak to you, try your own situation. Maybe Melissa, you are you're an events planner who specifically supports the theater department, and you want to create a theater playbill that showcases the advantages of the last 4 programs that we did and how we've seen attendance rise by 10%. And I want it to be in a professional tone, right? This is meant to be for leadership audiences, right? Or donors or whatever the case is. So if you find yourself wanting to try these and make them more realistically applicable, please do that. I'm going to be intentionally silent for about 60 seconds so that you can have an opportunity to do that. Starting now. Folks watching the recording, I apologize. You can jump forward about 60 seconds.
Or we could give them a little show and good thing, dance, entertain
I
them.
could do a little dance.
Yeah, I mean, you have a
No, that's
background.
if I do that, what's going to happen is people are going to bookmark the video and they're going to only go back to that. And that's going to, when I run for president, that's going to be what everyone remembers. And
True.
yeah.
You have to be careful what you
I'll
post.
make sure that the title slide for the YouTube video is you dancing around.
That's what it is. The Elmo dance. If anyone has had an opportunity to try this out, did you get something that surprised you? Do you have any questions regarding this sort of start approach? Now is a good time. I'm going to invite folks again, use the raise hand function. Now is an okay time if you want to put things in chat, but it would super benefit the group if you can share with the group. Jennifer is clapping, but is that you want to share? No? Oh, okay. Jennifer's just happy with what she got because she's smiling. Ron, what'd you get?
Yeah, I asked for a proposal to move a commencement ceremony to the local Coliseum.
Okay.
And what steps a proposal. And what I found was it was good. And it was actually really something we did years ago. But
okay.
My question is the perimeters to try to add more perimeters in, where do I add that in? Or is that in my question?
You can always put them at the very beginning. Like if you already know beforehand that I have a website that includes the space, or I have a reference document or whatever, you can always add those in the beginning. If you don't, you can add those afterwards. I have another acronym for you after this, but yes,
Okay.
you can continue to add like, hey, I forgot. You can even admit I forgot to mention this bit. Can you please incorporate that into the answer that you did before? That's I've done that several times.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for
Thanks.
asking. Yeah, Don.
Okay, so I did a few things. I did business continuity, the need for it in Sacramento, so it came up with the list and the pie chart. Then I asked about doing a bio, and it says, please write a bio for me for information found on the web. So it did one for the business continuity plan. Then it came back, I did it again, and it came back with more of my professional background, what I've done,
Sure.
talking about Sac State, talking about my nonprofit and what we do there. And
Yeah.
then I kind of used your choose a situation and a task. So the
Uh-huh.
question for that was draft a communication plan for the Homeless Connect on August 9th. It's one of the events we're having. And
Okay.
it's incredible. I mean, I just
Is it?
love, I mean, it's going into objectives, target event audience, key messages, all kinds of things. So, and now I've run out of the free plan,
Tokens
so
or
I
whatever.
can't do anymore. I'm
No
done.
worries. Well, I
I
think you
cooked.
can continue to prompt. I think it just changes the model that you're in if you're in the free one. And then I think after today or whenever they launch, you're going to have, you shouldn't run into that restriction based on my understanding of what you're getting in terms of license. That's super great. I did want
That's
to
the
call out
thing.
one additional thing though. One of the other trip ups that I've seen people do is they research themselves. Like, let me see how smart this AI tool is, and it says, "Tell me about Antonio Nava." And the problem is I'm not very well known, or there's a lot of people with the same name, so you might get something really weird. When I first started messing around with AI, and I said, "Who is Antonio Nava?" I got Spanish basketball player from whatever, but that lines up with what happens if I do a Google search. Tell me about Antonio Nava. Like, I'm not the first result that pops up. So we saw some people do that and go, "Oh, I don't trust AI now because it doesn't." It's like, well, you didn't give it enough context. Tell me about
Yeah,
Antonio
I
Nava.
put it
I
in
think he would have.
Sacramento.
Exactly. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
So if you narrow it down, you give it that context. Tell
yeah.
me about this staff member. I'm pretty sure he's San Diego. He's devilishly handsome. His name's Antonio Nava. Then it narrows it down because I've given enough context. Any other give room for one more person if they'd like to share or ask from this little mix of testing. Going once, going twice. I think it's everyone just wants to hear a dad joke. I'm gonna get a
No,
border
I was going to
collie.
say no,
What?
no,
What?
but no. I'm going to go. So
Okay.
I actually just kind of used some of the prompts that you provided, and I said that write I'm an event specialist. Draft a communication plan targeting transfer undergraduate students, a bullet point list, and I want to be excited. And so it did a pretty good job. It gave me like pre-arrival phase, things that we can do, a welcome email series, a social media campaign, transfer student portal, virtual meetings and info sessions, and then
Love it.
onboarding. It kind of talked about what to do in the first month. A welcome kit, first week welcome events, interactive campus tour. Then I talked about the engagement phase, ongoing, and communicate with monthly newsletters, peer mentorship program, interactive group chats, workshop and webinars. Then I talked about retention, so mid-semester and end of year. So it gives me, 4 different ideas on the things we can do: success stories, social media takeovers, and a semester event and feedback surveys. And then long-term about, alumni networking and ongoing communications. And then it actually even went on to give key messages like, welcome home, you belong here, we can't wait to see you thrive. And so I was pretty impressed by what it had. And that was just on a random prompt that, I literally just picked right off of your sheet to be easy.
Yeah.
So I use ChatGPT a lot. I think Sam and I are always joking about how it's just so much easier than trying to write something from scratch. But then I think the important thing is I always edit, right? I make it my own. I think that's really important.
I think it's really important enough that it's our next acronym. So I'm going to use that as a perfect segue.
I did it
Edit,
on
edit,
purpose
edit.
just for you, Tony. I want you to
It's
know.
almost it's almost like you knew. So the next slide here, edit, expand, direct, investigate, and trim. So these are some ideas or some things that you could potentially do once you've got your first prompt out in the open and you've got your first response, you can say, change the tone or the layout, change the format, change the language. I want this in Spanish. I want it in Tagalog. You could investigate. So if you got a set of bullets and one of them is like, wow, I've never done a RACI before. I don't even know what that acronym is. Can you tell me more about that? And you can investigate certain parts of what it gave you and expand on that idea in the same way that you would with a person. If I'm working with Sean and he, talks about something, I might feel a little silly asking Sean directly. I've never seen a RACI before, and maybe he'll think less of me. I'm less professional than he looks to me, right? But I can go to the AI tool because the AI is not going to judge me. It's going to be like, yes, let me help you learn about that. Or you can trim. So we all know that if you get a message and it's super bulky and not relevant, that making it more concise or making it, expanding in on certain really important key themes is going to be super, super important. So again, I'll give everyone an opportunity if you want, if you're able to try some of these out on the prompts that you ran through. But real time, I'm also going to, and real time, I'm also going to pull over to this one that I've got here. So this one that we had for the CSUSB event plan, I asked for milestones, right? And if there's a confirmed keynote speaker and panelist, let's say I've never done this before, right? I might come over here and say, what do I need to do to confirm keynote speaker and panelists? I've never done that before. I need to identify the speakers. I need to secure leadership approval if needed. Prepare and send invitations. Awesome. So if I need to prepare, maybe I've already done these things. Oh yeah, we talked to our sponsor before. Craft a professional invitation outlining. Okay, so I could actually take this one and say, do this one for me. Outlining the event, focus on the impact to students. Here we go, and it writes me the sort of thing. Again, I cannot stress this enough. You are still responsible for whatever this thing produces or starts to do. So make sure that you're reading through this. It has still the correct sort of tone that you're looking for, the right level of detail and granularity, those sorts of things. So please, 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 make sure that you're massaging it, you're going through and checking those out. If you have something that's golden, know that you can always click on this little copy button and it copies to your clipboard and you can then paste that into whatever resource you're working in. But that is the edit. So expand, direct, investigate, and trim. So don't think of it as a one and done. It's also, again, not directly analogous to a Google search, right? If you do a Google search, every single Google search is separate from any other Google search you've done, at least on the front end. We know that they're tracking us and doing other stuff. But if you do a Google search now for movies and you do another Google search for the beach or something, those two are separate. It's going to give you separate, independent, unique results, right? If you continue these on in the same thread, it'll remember the things that you asked it before so that you can continue to build on that same topic, if that's what you want to do. Otherwise, click on the little pencil. Additional prompting tips, and I should have updated this slide. That's okay. So let's talk about what we've got here. So be cautious of acronyms. So CSUSB, if you said, tell me about CSUSB, it's possible that that also means something else somewhere else, like the Center for Student Universities or something. I don't know. It could mean something else because remember, these tools are pulling from that big lump of data, right? The all over the internet data. So if you have an acronym, it's a good idea to either give it context or to write out what the acronym is intended to mean when you're doing different kinds of interactions here. You can use personas to give it a specific tone. So let's say I've got 10 ideas for events, right? I think these 10 ideas would be really good. I'm a staff member. It's been 20 years since I was a student. I might tell the AI, you are a student at CSUSB. You're a student there. Please tell me what you would think of these 10 ideas. What are the challenges? What are the blind spots? What are the things that we could do to make this more appealing for you as a student, right? You're giving it a persona so that when it responds, it tries to incorporate in the response the kinds of things that it sees in the relationships from the experience of students. They might say, don't send emails because students don't check their emails as readily. They might go to text or they might go to Instagram or other things because we're fossils, right? So, it'll give us those tips and maybe give you things that'll give you something else to chew on. There's this idea of zero shot, one shot, multi-shot. This is the idea of, how many examples are you giving the tool before you expect a response? So if I were to say, I want help writing a job description, for example, a 0-shot might be just help me write a job description. A 1-shot might be I attach one file that says, here's an example job description for you to kind of copy, learn from, and mirror, write it in this format. And multi-shot is you give it a whole bunch. TritonGPT, actually, we have a little sub-module in there where we've loaded up more than 1,000 job descriptions that have been used in the past, so that they all still keep our format and logic and compliance and all these other things. So that's 0-shot, 1-shot, multi-shot. Chain of thought is something where you can say explain your reasoning. So you can give it a prompt and say, I want to learn more about student experiences. Please help me understand step by step what you're doing to get to your response. So I want to learn. I don't want just a flat output, but I want to learn about, okay, first it's going to think about the financial implications and maybe how the students might have gotten to where they are and the challenges of getting through high school during COVID and some of these other things, right? So it might go through those and show you what it's doing in order to get to the response. That's a form of chain of thought. And then as mentioned, Sam, earlier, you can always change to the model. So you can always go to the little button and change the model so that it gives you a different kind of response or a little bit faster reasoning, or gives you a research paper, for example. Those are different things that you can do in terms of when you're prompting. And I do want to call out you can always upload files. So if you're like, I have this document, this announcement document, and I want you to reference it, you can upload or attach that document. I believe the internet search feature also, it gives you references. So if I were to come over here and I were to say, tell me about event planning at universities. If I were to turn on the internet search function, I believe it gives you actual like website references. So it more directly tells you, yeah, here we go. This one pulled from Timely. This one pulls from College of Art and Sciences. So if and when you need the opportunity to go in and pull those, it'll give you the reference links to jump to those actual pages, which is an extra layer of, research on that. Okay, let's see here. This is an example, a set of 3 example prompts. I just want to pick on one of them. You can look at all 3 and kind of think about it, but let's look at this first one. Let's say we've got an event and we're trying to promote this event as a de-stressing workshop. And the week prompt, somebody wrote a prompt and it says, write a social media post about a workshop. What could we do to bolster this prompt? What are some of the things we can add to this that'll make it better? This is sort of a check your knowledge moment for us. Raise your hand. Be brave. Ron, go ahead.
Well, what type of workshop? And
Exactly. Okay.
who are you trying to reach?
Perfect. So I might say write a social media post about a de-stressing workshop, and we are trying to reach students, staff, faculty, depending on the audience. Maybe I want a different social media post for each audience. Maybe I want to make one that is for staff and one that is for students. Maybe they have different tones. Lovely. Thank you. Anything else we can do to massage this prompt? Other thoughts? Remember the R, references. So if you have other social media prompts that you've used in the past that have been comms reviewed maybe, or if you have that as part of your requirements, you can include that as a reference. You can say, write me a social media post about this event targeted at students. And here's an example of a recent social media post we had. Please try to use this formatting or this tone or this approach, right? So that might be another thing, is including the references. Last but not least, the tone, right? We want it to be excited. We want it to be engaging. We want it to be professional. Maybe if it's for staff, that sort of thing. We want to highlight how these sorts of things can help in your professional development plan, or please remember that you're allotted X amount of time towards this, because we value, it's part of our mission to support staff, those sorts of things. All right, so I think now's a good time. I'm going to do key takeaways and let's address some of the questions, and we might even preempt some of these. So again, communicating, prompting, they're really the same thing. It's how do you interact? How do you speak with a person if and when you need this help? If I went to Sean and I wanted help on writing an email, I wouldn't just say, hey, help me write an email. I'd say, I'm in this situation. I'm in a pinch. Can you, I don't want to get stuck in writer's block. Can you help me out with this? Make sure you give it context. Make sure you can keep that goal-oriented frame of mind. and edit your prompts. Make sure that you're continuing to massage them afterwards. And as I mentioned, there should be a number 4 on here where we want you to think of it as not necessarily a search tool. So yes, it can find information. It can absolutely help you find things that are out in the world and help you find facts. But don't think of it as just a hyper extension of an internet search, right? Because that's only part of the magic of what these tools is going to help us do. It's going to help us more directly and more effectively reach audiences in ways that's going to help us do that in a more efficient way. Couple of things that I want to share with you. So this Everyday AI, it's a YouTube series that our team has propped up. The videos 2 and 3 here are essentially some of the stuff that I covered. So it's the start acronym and the edit acronym. So if you wanted to just send those pieces to anyone, you're welcome to reference this YouTube series and share those out. Episodes 4 onwards. So from 4 down, it's literally different prompts that we've tried in the workplace. We literally just put in the prompt, see what the tool does. We showcase TritonGPT, but really the prompt, the approach, the outputs, a lot of them are the same across many of these tools. These videos are months and months old, but the approach and the learnings from them are really still valid. There's also additional resources on our TritonGPT training page. Again, a lot of these are targeted at our tool, but many are not. We have an essentials course. This is something that we rolled out. It's basically the tools, terminology, and history of early AI. And we have a set of webinars here. So we've got one coming up that is explores the blend of Lean Six Sigma process improvement with the advantages of AI. That one's coming up in a month. Previous webinars include, how do these work? So a little bit look behind the curtain or under the hood, what you will, in terms of how does the technology itself work? How do the algorithms work? We speak to some of the folks behind the scenes in that regard, as well as we had one where we were talking to staff who have built out like staff learning modules and staff learning content and used AI to help them reach those goals. So at this point, questions. I do see one right off the bat. Are there any privacy concerns and issues with using this platform for sensitive content? The general guidance that I give folks is that if it is not publicly available information, then you should have a moment of pause. And that moment of pause doesn't mean outright stop, but it means go and find what information is available at your campus regarding what level of security is available within which tool. So I know TritonGPT backwards and forwards. I can give you a solid answer for that, but I don't know enough about what ChatGPT license is going to protect in terms of up to what levels. So I don't know if Sam wanted to chime in anything additional on that one.
Yeah, for sure. And good question. Part of the feature that comes with buying that enterprise license is that the data that we provided doesn't get fed back into the larger learning of the tool. So there is a level of privacy for CSU data to use it there. That being said, different people have different appetites for the level of privacy. So if it is a particularly sensitive research paper, it doesn't hurt to just drop a quick line to your IT department and ask the question of them. But again, generally, if it's on the web or it's a program people know about, then that's totally safe to put into a chatbot conversation with GPT.
One of the things that we do here every once in a while. Sorry, was there Phyllis?
No, I wanted to ask another question, but keep going since you're on that question.
No worries. Yeah. Oh, I was gonna pivot a little bit. Was usage of the AI tool can sometimes depend too on your intent and the audience's expectation. What I mean by that is, if I'm writing an email and we're inviting staff to a wellness event, they probably don't care if I used AI. Whereas if I am writing a condolences email to somebody who their family member has passed away, they probably don't want to know, think, feel that you used AI to generate that, right? There are times and places where you should say, you know what, I could use AI to do this. I'm going to set that aside and I'm going to do this freehand or other ways, right? So taking that into consideration is really important as well. Phyllis, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. There was another question that came in. CSU working on similar licensing as the CSU for ChatGPT products?
I'm going to look to Antonio, maybe Sean, but I will comment on the way that it seems that each UC is kind of doing their own thing. For instance, we have the TritonGPT while the CSU kind of went in wholesale for a whole system. But I'll comment on that and I'll turn it to Sean and Antonio.
Yeah, I think we have a mixture across different UCs. At UC San Diego, we definitely, went into TritonGPT. We have some self-hosted models. TritonGPT is more of a platform. So I don't really like comparing it to ChatGPT directly, because it is a platform. It brings in our context to certain use cases, things like that. We're actually looking to use some of the OpenAI and ChatGPT models within TritonGPT in the future. So that's a new release that's coming out. And it's something we've worked with other UCs. So UC Berkeley has Bear GPT, which is a clone of TritonGPT out there now. And we're working with UCOP and other groups across UCs. But we do have a lot of different considerations. I think it's great that CSU is able to go out and make a whole kind of system-wide procurement, which is really a huge thing and accomplishment. We haven't done just that yet. But we'd have a lot of different use of different tools across all of our campuses. I know I could speak really well for UC San Diego, and we are in different groups using a lot of other tools at the same time, for different use cases. Even in research, there's very, very specialized large language models that do, really unique things, and their data set, how they were trained for very specific use cases that we utilize as well there. So it's I think there's a lot of potential answers to that question.
Thanks, Sean, for that. Another question about privacy. How is my privacy protected while using ChatGPT sponsored by my employer?
I'll chime in on this one, and this is part of the training that we got when they rolled out GPT to the Chancellor's office. Again, going back to the kind of the stipulation of the contract is it doesn't feed anything back into the model. And there is some safeguards too, so that kind of the super admins at the CO that are, or at your university that are running the GPT can't necessarily see the inputs from individual users. That being said, I know that there's other language models that some teams use to check what input and stuff is being used in that one. So it's all happening at a very meta level. So I'd say you're probably fine kind of working through kind of semi-personal problems through your CSU version of GPT. That being said, it may just for convenience sake make sense for you to kind of have a personal account as well, thinking about it much like you do with an email, where you have your work email, you have your personal email, and you can use your personal GPT for looking up medical advice or meal planning and kind of things that you don't kind of want to mingle in with your work stuff. So a couple considerations there. Thanks for the question, Phyllis.
Yeah, absolutely. Another question that came in was, what type of information should I not enter into ChatGPT? We talked about proprietary, but
I'll
anything
start
else
on
you want
this
to
one.
advise?
I'll start on this one, and I'll let Sean and Antonio chime in too. We've been at the CSU given pretty strict, clear guidance that try to avoid using level 1 information. So, of course, things you probably barely have access to, student ID numbers, super identifiable information. Again, kind of need to know basis to get what you need out of the GPT to do your work. Although I've heard there's some safeguards to kind of protecting that data as well. I'll turn it over to Antonio and Sean to give us the UCSD perspective.
Yeah, best thing to do is for work use, follow the guidance at your location. Ours is secure up to P3. It's within our data center, so it never goes outside and that sort of thing. For personal use, if it's not available to the public already, general guidance is don't put it out there, or if you don't, that sort of thing. It's fairly common wisdom of internet usage in general, right? If you don't want it out on the internet, don't put it on the internet. Yeah, so that's maybe the best way I can answer that.
Yeah, thank you. And then I think we only have time maybe for one more before we wrap things up. And this question has to do with ChatGPT integrating with other tools or platforms such as a CRM or email services. And the question is, can and how does it integrate with those tools?
Sean, I don't know if you know more about that than I, or Sam.
I have kind of a downer response to that from the CSU perspective, so I'll let you guys get folks excited, and then I'll give a little bit of real.
So with our platform, I think we have a lot more leeway. We are integrating with a lot of our tools. We're integrating with our data warehouse, our activity hubs. We're able to start to be able to ask questions that are directly related to our data that follows the data access that user might have. So you could say, oh, give me how much funding is left on this project and what the spending looks like over the last 5 years. And we're doing a lot more of that in different areas where we're connecting into different systems, even potentially having TritonGPT platform help you answer a bunch of questions and then fill out and submit that form for you, right? It's like if I use it to answer all these questions that I'm just going to go fill out a form, can't it just do that? So we're excited to do some of that work as well. But I think we have a little bit more leeway with our integrations. Sam, I'll turn it over to you for.
Yeah, that's unfortunately one of the things that got kind of cut out for privacy and security respects for the CSU license. So it's, and the way I think, so yes, the capability is there. It's really neat. And that's kind of what it's in the news and the buzz in the industry is that next couple of months to the year, we'll have kind of these agents that are able to be working within these software that you already use, and we'll be doing some of the smaller functions for you. I think we're still a little bit away from that from the CSU. So part of the why we got our license is because we lost some of those connections. And really what you all will see this played out is in the GPT store that you have in your access. And I'm going to share my screen really quickly to show you. So up in the top menu, you can explore GPTs. And these are essentially custom bots that people spent a little bit of time kind of giving it a lot of context, a lot of information, a lot of training to do specific things. Usually, if you use it on your personal side, there's a vast kind of app store of these. But given the CSU kind of lockdown, we're only able to use the ones that came from GPT OpenAI directly. And the concern there was that some of those other ones have like API connections that could potentially tap into our data when we don't want them to. So that's kind of how we have it locked down. I have heard that you are able to create your own GPT to do some really specialized tasks, and you're able to share it with other users at your university. So that's about as open as we can get there. Yeah, so hopefully that's helpful to the question.
I think that is. Thank you. Okay, with that, we are a minute over. So thank you, Sam, Antonio, and Sean for sharing your time and talent with us today. There was just so much great information shared. For those who would like to review this presentation and for those who were able to join us, this session was recorded and we will be able to view on the CSU-UC EPN's intranet. Please give us 48 hours to get it posted. Also, please join us next month on April 24th at 11 a.m. when we will present our next hot topic, trends in decorating. Check your email for the link to sign up and help us spread the word. Until then, take care, everyone. Thanks so much.